one place that was superintended this past weekend was the movie theaters of this great nation. We are a fair channel here. We call balls and strikes. We give Disney its flowers when we need to. And right now, they deserve all the flowers because Lilo and Stitch, I mean, I believe Valiant Renegade called it a money-making miracle for Disney. And it is dominating a record-breaking Memorial Day box office, outgrossing Snow White's entire global run in just 4 days.
That's an unfair metric, but yes, absolutely.
I don't think it's Snow White's entire run made what, 200 something million? Lilo and Stitch is already over 300. So in just 4 days from global, but both Lilo and Stitch and Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning contributed to the biggest Memorial Day weekend in box office history. Now, movie theaters across the country surged with foot traffic as Lilo and Stitch and Paramount's Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning powered an explosive $322 million box office total across all titles, a new high for the holiday frame. Families turned out in force for Lilo and Stitch, Disney's live-action remake of the 2002 animated classic. The film earned a massive $145.5 million over the weekend and is projected to close out the 4-day stretch with $183 million. That not only blew past industry expectations, but it broke the Memorial Day opening record previously held by Top Gun Maverick, which did $160 million over 4 days. So it now stands as the second highest 4-day holiday debut in history, behind Marvel's Black Panther at $242 million over President's Day weekend in 2018. Now, meanwhile, Tom Cruise's latest outing as Ethan Hunt also proved formidable. Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning drew older audiences in droves, earning the franchise best of $63 million across the standard weekend and $77 million through Monday. It narrowly outpaced Mission Impossible: Fallout's previous record of $61 million to become the top domestic opening in the series' 29-year run, gentlemen. Big weekend.
Yeah, this is the first time in a very long time that I've shown up to theater and to any theater and actually had a line to get my tickets. We go to one of those theaters that happens to have more expensive tickets if you order online, which is horrific in my opinion. Like you don't even have to hand me the ticket, or you can go up to the counter and hand them your card and they'll hand you the tickets that you've already bought. It's like one of those ones where, why am I bothering to reserve this? With this, I had a completely packed theater, which also something that doesn't happen very often, and to the point where they were trying to get in as many showings as possible. And a faux pas for this theater in particular, they had the lights up before the end of the mid-credit sequence because they had to turn it around for the next full showing. People were really excited to show up to this unnecessary movie.
You know what? Anyone who is surprised by this doesn't remember what Stitchamania was like back in 2002.
Yeah.
I mean, because not only Stitch is still super popular with kids, and Stitch is a millennial nostalgia machine.
Absolutely.
Correct.
They managed to avoid their Rachel Zegler mistakes with Snow White. Nobody made any inflammatory statements that put off audiences. While the ending of this movie was pretty radically changed from the original, that was not something people knew about beforehand. There were no wild casting departures, and it's cleaning up at the box office. I personally don't think there was anything identity politics in this movie. The only issue I have with the movie was Zach Galifianakis being terrible. Just being Zach Galifianakis, something that nobody has wanted since The Hangover Part 1.
Well, it doesn't help that he is replacing a character with kind of a voice that is kind of a pleasing voice and also is funny. So David Ogden Stiers, like one of the unsung heroes of Disney animation. He was the voice of Cogsworth, and he was also the narrator on the opening of Beauty and the Beast. Just one of those voices that you really underestimate how pleasing that voice is. And him as Jumba, he played a lovable Jumba that was also evil, which is so much fun.
But evil, like he was kind of a twin. Like he's only built for distraction. Like, I loved that Jumbo voice, but I also like how at the end, he's like part of the family. He stays on Earth. He's in the animated series. In this, they just made him the straight up villain because I guess in a movie that was, developed for Disney Plus, you couldn't really afford to CGI a 20-foot tall shark monster that would be in half the movie.
Well, apparently you can CGI a 7-foot whatever Jumba is over and over again.
But not for the whole movie. He
That's
spent
right.
most of the movie as Zach Galifianakis.
True.
Yeah. Any of the times that they actually appeared in animated form, I did not like the movie. I think the only animated character that I thought had a good look was the Grand Empress or whatever her name was.
Grand
But at the
Councilwoman.
same time, Grand Councilwoman. Sorry, I'll respect the title here. She earned it.
Yeah, please.
We've come a long way, baby. I quite literally could not wait for any of the moments when the animated characters that were not Stitch were on the screen. I felt like it was get past this as soon as possible. But the stuff with the kid and with the older sister, even though some of my issues with this film stem from the way that they changed the story with the older sister and the social worker. Anyways, we're not here to review the film, but this was a completely unnecessary remake that's probably going to make more than $1 billion.
Oh yeah, I think so. I think it's well on the way to $1 billion. I mean, 300 and what is it, 341 opening weekend globally. I think we've and I think it's going to have legs. Like I think this is going to be a movie that people are going to be seeing a month from now. So you know, Mission Impossible, while it had a very decent opening, Mission Impossible's budget is almost $400 million for this movie, for this 3-hour movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a COVID era film, so those production costs really ballooned. We know we've seen that from like Dial of Destiny, I want to say, Little Mermaid, and all those kind of films, and it also suffered from the strikes as well, which ballooned the budget. Unfortunately, in this case, a lot of amazing. I mean, some of the stunts in that film, Final Reckoning, are absolutely incredible. In fact, we actually themed the Memorial Day special for Hollywood Backlot with Lou and you, talking about the incredible wing walking that Tom Cruise was able to execute for that film, and we had an expert on there talking about just the dangers associated with that. Definitely check that out if you have not. But it's an incredible film. It's probably not going to make its money back at all. Whereas in Lilo and Stitch's case, for $100 million, this thing is a box office smash, and it'll probably be the most profitable Disney film in over a decade.
So what do you think? $100 million in production costs, probably another $100 million in marketing, maybe a little bit more. They've been very aggressive with the marketing on this movie.
Yeah. I think they spent more on the marketing than the actual film itself, which is pretty profound for Disney.
Yeah. But like, you know, like I said, Mission Impossible, very steep climb to profitability. And I'm pretty sure that by week 3, Mission Impossible will have made all the money that it's going to make. Now, the last Mission Impossible, that did somewhere like around 750 million. This would have to beat that just to achieve profitability.
Right.
Wow.
That's that. I mean, you know, as much as I do like Tom Cruise, and I think, you know, when Tom Cruise was asked about, you know, tariffs and stuff like that at a recent press conference, he was like, we prefer to just talk about the movie. But biggest Memorial Day in box office history, guys. One thing I wanted to point out: Lilo and Stitch, you know, no overt identity politics. Mission Impossible, no overt identity politics. What else did you have out there? Minecraft, Sinners, Thunderbolts, all movies that did not lean hard into the progressive left. And you're seeing the biggest Memorial. All of this, nobody wants to go to the movies anymore. The era of the movie theater is over, blah, blah, blah. That has been turned on its head. The audience has once again held up a mirror to Hollywood and been like, look at what the problem is. And the question now becomes, are they actually going to take the cue and be like, oh, all right.
You know what's funny? There was just the tiniest bit, like right at the end of the film, there's this moment where they talk about the fortitude of the Hawaiian people, and also how Nani is going to go to college and get a degree in STEM, and that, you know, it's time it's Nani's time, kind of. And that was the only moment in the film where I just kind of like, okay. But it's kind of like 90s era stuff where they just want to make themselves feel really good for a moment. Not that there's anything wrong with any of those things in and of themselves, but in the context of getting over, you know, all this era of wokeness, I just kind of go, oh, okay, great. The more you know.
Yeah. Well, I would say both films have their progressive ideals. I think with Final Reckoning, it's more with the casting than anything else, and then with Lilo and Stitch, there are some statements there. It's interesting because some people were actually very upset that they didn't, in Lilo and Stitch anyway, the remake didn't make a profound statement on the tourism industry and how that's affected the community.
That's what we needed to do. We needed a hard left turn into that.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Well, apparently the animated film had more commentary on that than the live action remake. But I think you're right, Marvin. I think keeping these films away from political messaging and making them so that anybody can resonate with them, and that includes international, because we know that Final Reckoning is actually doing very, very well internationally. I believe I think it was like $127 million versus about $77 million on the weekend there, making a $200 million global gross. That's huge for that film. Also, too, Latin America has been supporting Lilo and Stitch. I believe places in Europe have been supporting that film. So the less political messaging that you actually provide for your films, and internationally, this just plays much better. And I think we're seeing that reflected in the box office.
Well, Vash, do you guys remember last Memorial Day? Because last Memorial Day, your big movies were Garfield and Mad Max Furiosa. And that Memorial Day weekend, we covered that in the article here. That Memorial Day weekend did about $132 million in total. One of the worst Memorial Day weekends in history.
Yikes.
So what a difference 365 days make, gentlemen. I mean, Fury Road, and I heard from people that Fury Road was Furiosa Mad Max was actually pretty good. But I think it came at a time where people were just so exhausted by female-led action movies that nobody wanted to see it. And you know, we're seeing this. If you just present and we have an article up on That Park Place today that I hope people check out about how conservative Hollywood is kind of taking over with what's going on television right now, what's going on in movies. You're starting to see more progressive, reportedly more progressive projects be shelved in favor of movies and TV shows that are espousing traditional values. So we might be seeing the shift here, and this Memorial Day weekend, guys, might be the thing that executives point to for the next several years as the reason why. So
I think that would be great. You know, even though I give this movie a hard time as something that should not be there, it is a movie that is in and of itself very pro-family. The hole in their life is because they're missing family, and they're sticking together because they're a family. I know the fact that I'm not going to spoil the film. The change that they made is supposedly anti-family, but it's done in a way to keep the family together, but also keep the family moving. So, you know, Disney, I think, struggles a little bit with what a family actually is. You know, they throw that term around like so much candy, like everybody is just really good friends for a weekend and their family. No, I mean, that's really good friends. It's already a thing. This is family. So I like it.
Right. Absolutely. All right. We got a couple more super chats that just came in, gentlemen. Cannon Barnes, member for 4 months, says, "Good morning, magic, everyone." Well, good morning, magic to you, Mr. Barnes. Also for $5, says, if Disney wants the sequel to make another billion, they need to recast Jumba and redeem him and bring in Gantu and Dr. Hamsterfield and Angel. I would assume that's probably, at least Dr. Hamsterfield and Angel, I would assume is probably where they're going to go with the sequel. Apparently, they're already greenlighting and trying to fast-pace the sequel. And what Pro said in our stream where we were talking about the review last week, I think it was Pro that said it, or it might have been Wizard, said they need to move on this fast because that little girl is going to grow up very quickly. And that little girl is the heart and soul of that movie. So
absolutely,
you got to move. You got to move on that.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media account.